Daleks exterminate, Cybermen convert, but the Sontarans wage war. Welcome to another Cultural Index, and in this video we'll be bringing about our crosshairs to bear on the preeminent soldiers of the Doctor Who universe, the Sontarans. Regarded as the finest warriors in the galaxy, the Sontarans boast an impressive military that expands across all aspects of their culture. Warfare is all they have known, and conflict across multiple theatres is a constant for them because the Sontarans, well, they were literally bred for it. A clone race, they originate from the planet Sontar, occasionally known as Sontar-HA, and first came into existence to defend the Kavich, the original natives to Sontar. Now the Kavich came into conflict with a race called the Rutans, and years into the conflict it became apparent that they were on the losing side. With their numbers dwindling, they turned their advances in genetics towards cloning to replenish their ranks with new soldiers. These soldiers were accelerated through childhood to a mature age and then put through intense training and combat scenarios, taught tactical insights and theory. In short, bred for war. As the decades began to pass and the war showed no signs of ending, the Sontaran clones became the dominant race, and those few Kavich, well, they disappeared. The Sontarans we see today have adopted the name of their homeworld and are similar in biology to the Kavich, though more stocky, and many share a uniform appearance due to being a clone army. Different clone army. The average lifespan of a Sontaran is around 80 years, however few will ever live to such an age. Much of their biology is equally focused on the task of conflict, with many distractions removed. They reproduce via cloning only and appear to consist of only one gender. Their nourishment comes from the form of an energy supplement that is absorbed through an organ on the back of the neck, rather than being eaten. Although capable of consuming food as humans do, the act is only done with survival in mind. There's no pleasure in eating. The clones are organised into a loose, clan-like structure which is likely a cultural leftover from their pre-war days. This structure is based on the clone patches and lineage, but comes secondary to the military structure and service to the Empire. With their homeworld supporting a gravitational pull of 6 times the Earth's, and their moon exceeding that, the Sontarans have short, muscular builds that their diminutive stature seems to contradict. Hang on, but wait. How does their moon have a stronger gravitational pull than that of their planet? Wouldn't that make them go the other way round? Well, that is because the first true Sontaran leader, the Imperator, instituted a great landscaping of stellar proportions. They reorganised their solar system to place Sontar at the centre, and made every other object, including their sun, orbit around Sontar, effectively making the larger planetary bodies Sontar's satellites. They quite literally placed themselves at the centre of their solar system, and the connotations to that seem rather obvious. The planet is naturally of a red hue, but a network of megastructures and gases cover its surface, with almost all other ecosystems other than the Sontaran supremacy completely crippled. Service towards the Sontaran Empire was the only way of life for an individual, and no outside race would ever truly be accepted no matter how they proved themselves. In fact, to assist another culture without calls to the Empire is considered a dishonourable act and can lead to repercussions such as demotion. I guess this means that Strax probably wouldn't be welcomed back into the military. The greatest dishonour a soldier of the Empire can face is to be denied service or discharged, a fate which defective clones are often resigned to. They perform the menial labour of the society alongside the dishonoured. This quite clearly shows their approach to perceived weakness in their culture, expelling it rather than attempting to strengthen it. It should be unsurprising to note then that the death penalty is in effect across the Empire and its territories. However, this devotion to constant conflict may conjure the image of a barbaric race of warriors, but this would be a severe underestimation. They are all trained in all avenues of warfare, from espionage to tactical manoeuvring in fleets and on the ground. In an ongoing effort to obliterate the Rutans, the Sontarans have often waged war on other species across the galaxy to harvest resources. These other regions, once subjugated, can suffer a myriad of fates, the worst outcome of which is to be converted into a cloning world, where new Sontaran soldiers will be bred and trained, rendering it uninhabitable for the native populations. The most common outcome for a conquered world, however, is to be put to task, harvesting resources to fuel the Sontaran war machine. Curiously though, Most territories are allowed to retain their government and ruling structure. However, the Sontarans would overlay their military law and enforce its dominance over the local ones. This tactic is of course far more sustainable in the long run than simply enslaving a population, which would breed a greater resentment and eventual uprisings. The ruling body of the Sontaran people is the High Command, led by the Imperator Sontar, and the military decisions, ergo the majority of all decisions, are overseen by the Grand Strategic Council, made up of the aforementioned Imperator alongside a collection of marshals. Below the marshals are the generals and the commanders, majors, captains and so forth, other military ranks. The adherence to rank is everything to a Sontaran, and a subordinate would die rather than disobey. Military victories and feats of valour are celebrated in a strict sense with the awarding of medals and titles, such as the Undefeated, the Bloodbringer, the Subjugator of Worlds, and so forth. Soldiers who killed 10,000 enemies earned the Medal of Pacification, for example. And I thought a 25 kill streak on Halo was difficult enough. It was considered an honour to face combat without a helm, as despite the obvious risk, it showed a level of bravery worthy of respect, and in an arrogant way, it was seen as giving the enemy a chance. Diplomacy has occasionally been attempted by the Sontarans, but it's usually seen as a last resort, and politics generally considered a game of duplicity. A Sontaran typically views negotiation with the same level of dishonour and sincerity as espionage, so by the time you enter negotiations with a Sontaran, expect to be double-crossed, as they are already, in effect, desperate. This view of warfare means that there is often some leeway with how they deal with other cultures. A worthy opponent is fought in a war. However, that respect has to be earned. Morality that would otherwise brand certain actions as war crimes has been lost over millennia of conflict, and the Sontarans have no qualms over acts such as genocide, should it be necessary. This stems from their incredibly egotistical standpoint that might is right, and they are so often the more mighty. This means that even when faced with a situation where the opponent has the upper hand, your typical Sontaran will not retreat, for if the enemy proves stronger, then they are in the right. Because of this, many Sontarans would rather die than receive medical treatment unless ordered to do so. Sontaran medicine did not exist beyond a rudimentary state, and a large percentage of medical staff were generally tasked with maintaining the cloning facilities and tending to the needs of the trainees. Therefore, although not considered a dishonourable profession, medics were often viewed with a certain amount of disdain. Biological understandings of different races were also limited to the exploitation of a species' weaknesses. The area of technological development in many other areas, however, is excellent and often unrivalled, in their own time periods anyway. They've displayed an aptitude for advanced teleportation, cloaking, robotics, AI, computing, and even limited time travel. In fact, their early time travel could only displace soldiers forwards in time. In fact, it was a general standing order for any Sontaran to attempt to capture a TARDIS to help develop this technology should an opportunity arise. The primary Sontaran arms manufacturer is called Stenk, and creates most of their firearms and lasers. A favourite of the Sontar military is the Rheon carbine stick, which could stun/kill and alter brain patterns, producing a sort of hypnosis effect. Their spaceflight was nothing to be shunned either, with entire fleets and armadas of spherical scout ships and larger motherships that acted as carriers. A Sontaran-specific vessel was the infamous War Wheel, a battle cruiser that was capable of landing on a planet's surface and then doubling as a gigantic tank. Imagine seeing that descend onto your world, the ground not even finished quaking from its touchdown, when it begins to ominously trundle across the landscape, levelling everything in its path. Their culture consists of retelling legends of great wars and battles fought, and these stories are documented and recorded in militaristic detail for study and reflection of later generations of clones. Spoils of war and trophies were collected from successful campaigns and added to a leader's reputation. After all, in a strictly hierarchical system, advancement is everything. Sontarans do, however, have a culture beyond warfare. They practice a number of blood sports, such as dueling and hunting, as well as live target practice. They also engage in wrestling and fistfights for fun and to test martial prowess. They even have artists who paint, as realistically as possible, scenes of warfare, aftermaths of conflicts and battlefields of legendary proportions. Though any artist who attempts to indulge in some artistic expression, in say, drawing an impressionistic lake resplendent with wildlife, is summarily executed. Okay, so maybe they do have somewhat of a one-track mind. All in all, the Sontaran clone race is formidable and strictly regimented in all aspects of life. Literally born for war, they have little interest of cultural pursuits beyond service, but adhere to their own aspects of honour based around their military doctrine. If a Sontaran tells you he enjoys the prospect of killing you, take it as a compliment. Killing, mind, not fighting, because in his head he's already won. Thanks for listening to this index, and as usual, the next options for the cultural index are between the Vex of Destiny, and for the first time, a Star Wars race, the Twi'lek. You can cast your vote by liking the appropriate comment below. The comment with the most likes is the one that gets the next video. So until next time, I've been Rick. Thanks for listening. I hope to see you again. Goodbye.